Hello, Laziali all over the world. Welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. What a match! Atalanta Lazio, 2-0 for Lazio. Another away victory for the team of Maurizio Sarri. And it's funny, Alasdair, because we were talking about Lazio having issue with the away game. And after that, 4-0 against Cremonese, 4-0 against Fiorentina, and now 2-0 against Atalanta. Three match played away, what is it? 10 goals scored, none allowed, and 9 points. That's not really bad, right?
It's ridiculous, really. And also, we were talking about Lazio having issues without Ciro Immobile, and then they go and put in quite possibly the best performance of the entire season without him. So maybe the theme here is that we need to kind of everything we are coming up with as a potential criticism is just going to turn into a good thing. So that's something to think about.
Yeah. We struggle at the derby.
Yeah, not a chance against this ferocious attack of Roma.
Yeah, definitely. We have no chance. But I don't know. You were saying best match of the season. Um, we played quite well in Serie A, not in Europe League, but in Serie A we played some decent matches. You were talking about Inter, but even against Fiorentina we played really well. Obviously Cremonese, it's a weaker side, but we have to say, Alison, that this year Lazio is playing great football, and it's consistent, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's everyone's kind of saying the same thing by now, which is, in terms of not just the fans and the media, but also the players, that the now that we're a year and a half into the Sarri regime, it's clear that those methods have sunk in, that the players are far more capable of playing the kind of football he's wanting them to play at this stage. And it's just really good to watch. I mean, I think the thing that set yesterday aside compared to previous games is probably just the complete control of that match. It wasn't just that it was easy on the eye, that they scored a couple of really nice goals. It's the fact that Atalanta at home failed to have a single shot on target in the entire game, and that you just felt like Lazio had gone there with a game plan, and they basically perfectly executed that game plan. And and that's with Ciro Immobile watching on from home. So it really was an incredible performance. Let's not forget as well, this isn't just Atalanta, a team that historically have been a really awkward opponent, but it's an Atalanta team that have been pushing right at the top of the table so far this season. So it really, really is right up there. If it's not the absolute best performance of the season, it's definitely among them.
And let's not forget that probably it's not the same Atalanta of the past, but this was the first defeat this season. They drew against Milan. They beat Fiorentina. They beat Roma. So it was a good team, especially without a European competition. They had 7 days to prepare, and you can see it that they are doing pretty well this season so far. And closing the match without allowing a shot on target, this is impressive. I mean, I remember with Simone Inzaghi how much we struggle against them. We won a couple of matches. I remember the Coppa Italia final in particular, or the last time Murici scored in the Campionato, 3-1 against Atalanta. But since Sarri came in, Lazio have played much better against Atalanta. I mean, last year we drew at home and away, but especially the away game, we deserved to win, and we were really unlucky. Obviously, at that time we had Reina no Provedel, but a lot of things has changed with the new manager, right?
Yeah, I do wonder if a bit of that the kind of beef has disappeared now as well with the change of coach, because it became a really big rivalry for a while around the time of the Coppa Italia final, and when Lazio and Atalanta were both battling for a kind of Champions League qualification around the same time. There was so much riding on a lot of these matches. And that still is true. I mean, they are both still teams fighting for European positions and so on. But I think probably there was an element of kind of Inzaghi versus Gasperini to those a lot of those
Yeah.
matches as well. So perhaps there's a little bit more calmness to it. I mean, it certainly came across that way yesterday. There was, like I said, the control of the match, the fact it was a goal in either half, uh, rock solid defensive performance. And it's worth mentioning as well, like you rightly pointed out, this is an Atalanta team, although they've got the same coach, they have changed style a lot this season. And going into this game, they're one of the few teams who are actually capable of competing with Lazio in terms of their defensive record. I think going into this, they conceded 6, Lazio 5. And so to then go up there and score twice without Ciro, with the same forward line that we had just been saying against Udinese looked a bit lost and unpracticed. So I don't know if it's just been a case of doing a lot of work on that in the week, or if it was, down to the opposition. Anderson found it harder against Udinese to play that role than he did against Atalanta. But Anderson deserves a hell of a lot of praise for his performance yesterday. The absence of Ciro, not only scoring the goal, but his all-round game was fantastic. And it was the perfect start. It's the perfect encouragement you need at this stage when we know we've got this run of 7 games without Ciro.
Yeah, I thought probably the best match so far for Felipe this season. Great performance. But honestly, even Zaccagni and Pedro played really, really well. And I think it makes sense. If the 3 in front play that well, then it's very difficult for the other team, not only to defend, but also to attack. I mean, I remember in the second half, Zaccagni chasing back, I don't know if it was Muri or somewhere else, in our midfield and recovering the ball. I mean, that's not something you used to see from a winger. Felipe Anderson was great, but even Zaccagni had a terrific performance. We didn't mention Pedro. Great assist, great match. I mean, those 3 players were amazing yesterday. Again, it's not only thanks to them. All the team played really well. But I thought with them playing like that, Lazio is really difficult to stop.
Yeah, and Sarri after the game, he talked about the plan being essentially to not give the Atalanta defense any focal points. References to how they're going to defend and kind of confuse their structure a bit. And it was interesting seeing how they went about that. I mean, I don't think, to be honest, the style didn't seem to change an awful lot to me. Perhaps there was a bit more interchange between the wingers coming inside and Anderson drifting out. But there was a lot of Anderson coming deep into the midfield, which is something Ciro does a lot. And Vecino in particularly seemed to be kind of filling that gap a lot more. If Anderson came back, yeah, Vecino went up. There are a few opportunities created from that. And that must be difficult to defend against, because if you've got a set back 3 or back 5 and your left wingers on the right wing, your right wingers on the centre forward, your centre forwards in midfield, and suddenly you've got a 6'4" midfielder running up into the centre forward position. I mean, it must be a bit confusing and difficult to deal with that. So, it's one thing, the theory and the practice are obviously 2 completely different things. So it was really impressive to see them execute that, because our biggest fear, really, that we were discussing a lot last week, was based on the fact that this isn't something Lazio have been practicing. This isn't like a performance that's come out of a lot of trial and error in the Europa League or in the last 20, 30 minutes of games. This is something that has barely been experimented with so far this season. So for them to go out and make it look like it's something they've been doing all season long was really impressive. It must have been a hell of a week at Formello. I don't know what they've been up to, but they've been busy.
Well, this was the first match that Ciro didn't start, so they never did it in the pitch. And one thing about Felipe Anderson, nobody mentioned it, but the first goal, Felipe moved from the central position to the right. And it's not a surprise that Zaccagni is a mark, because I think both Demiral and the other central defender, I don't remember who was it, are completely unclear of what to do. And Zaccagni steps in from the left back, and he's completely free in the penalty box. So that's one of the things that Felipe Anderson did really well yesterday. And, someone said, well, Lazio played better without Ciro. No, I think it depends on the opponent. We know that Atalanta plays man-to-man, and they like to have a reference, right? They like to know, well, Ciro is there in the center. The central defender will mark him. With Felipe Anderson moving around, this means that the central defender would have moved around and leave the space for example, Vecino to step in, Pedro, Zaccagni. So that's why Lazio played so well without Ciro. Against Salernitana, against Roma, it would be completely different, right?
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it seemed to be a really difficult match in order to as the first game without Ciro, it seemed to be not ideal. But when you put it that way, actually, I guess that system is it does suit that kind of opponent, actually. So, well, it certainly worked out that way anyway. And like you say, Atalanta's first defeat of the season, it's
Yeah.
fantastic. It really is, and the confidence is going to be through the roof now. And it's like I said before, it's exactly what they needed, really, considering what's coming up. I mean, there's a hell of a run of fixtures we've got between now and the next 3 weeks or so, another 6 games, and before the World Cup. So there's an awful lot at stake.
Alasdair, you mentioned first defeat for Atalanta and clean sheet. Let's not forget, they didn't have a shot on target. Provedel didn't do nothing. I mean, this is astonishing. This is unbelievable. I mean, if you think of less than 1 year ago, Lazio defense was awful. We were terrible. We allowed Verona to score 4 goals, Bologna to score 3. And now we go to Bergamo, that's very difficult, and not only clean sheet, but Atalanta didn't have a shot on target.
Yeah, shocking game from Provedel, not a single save. So he won't be happy about that. The thing is as well, I think Casale for me deserves another shout out because we were a bit surprised when he came into the starting lineup against Udinese, with Patrick obviously having been playing so well so far this season and being the first choice there. But I don't know, do you think that Casale is now he's cemented a starting spot? I mean, it's interesting to now consider what the hierarchy is, because he had a really good game against Udinese, and then I think he had a really good game against Atalanta. And now those are 2 clean sheets against 2 of the in-form top 4 sides in the league, as they were at the time we were playing them anyway. And Casale's played a big part in that. And he looks like now he's finally kind of really settled in. He's got a good relationship with Romagnoli. But then again, Patrick's been playing brilliantly as well. So, it's great to have options, but what do you think? Do you think he's done enough now to be the automatic starter ahead of Patrick?
Well, it's incredible to have option. It's not great. I mean, I'm still getting used to it. I mean, I still need to think about it. I'm surprised, Alasdair, because we saw that Sarri liked to rotate depending on the opponent. So, when you had, he said against Udinese, I picked Casale Romagnoli because Udinese striker are physical. They're strong, they're big, so I put Casale. Well, Muriel, you cannot say he's big, right? He's fast, he's speedy. So it was the perfect, let's say, option for Patrick. Instead, Casale started. And Muriel didn't do pretty much nothing except the red card and the dive in the swimming pool. So, yeah, I was impressed, honestly, because it's not that Atalanta created that much. Casale and Romagnoli were perfect. So, really encouraging. But again, I think that as we're going to play every 3 days from now till the break, I think he's going to rotate a lot, even in defense. So, I wouldn't be surprised if Patrick would start on Sunday or on Thursday. But definitely, I mean, you were talking about the friendly match Lazio-Genoa. In the preseason, Casale was awful. And we said it. He started really, really bad. So it's encouraging to see how he picked up fast. And now he's an option. So that's really a valid point for us, because we said it often. One of the issues of this team is not having that many options. And now we have it. We have Vecino, who's starting a lot. We have Casale, Patrick. We have plenty of options there.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's, Gila as well, who's obviously been featuring a lot in the Europa League, but not so much in Serie A. But I mean, he's another one who's there. He's getting game time. He's very young, and you hope that I wouldn't say he's been a standout performer yet so far, but equally he's not been someone who's been letting us down. that much. I mean, a couple of shaky moments, I guess, but given his age, new club, new country, all that stuff, I think he's settled relatively well. So yeah, I mean, it's amazing, really. It's incredible, the depth of options suddenly in the defense and goalkeeper. Let's not forget about Maximiano, and the fact that there's this incredible run, like you say, 6 clean sheets in a row. 5 goals conceded in 11 games is apparently that's not been done since we won the first Scudetto in '74. So
and Alasdair,
leave that one there.
Yeah, we'll leave it there. And it's funny, Alasdair, because a lot of fans were saying, yeah, but let's wait till Lazio play big teams. Well, we played against Fiorentina away, 4-0. We played against Atalanta away, 2-0. I mean, this Lazio defense is proving to be good even against good team. I mean, Lazio Udinese, 0-0. Udinese is a good team. Let's not forget about that. And we had 6 consecutive clean sheet. And we played away against Fiorentina, away against Atalanta, against Udinese at home. I mean, that's really a good sign. And last time that Lazio had 6 consecutive clean sheet was with Sven-Goran Eriksson the first year. So, it's not something that happened very often for Lazio. And again, very encouraging, very promising sign. So this is something really we have to talk about, how much the defense have improved. And you talked about Patrick coming off, Casale playing. I think the only issue is on the wingers, where Marusic is playing a lot, and that's a little bit concerning going forward. But apart from that, our defense is solid, and we have tested now. It's not that they have been untested. So this is very good. 6 consecutive clean sheet. It's a good number. And I agree with Sarri saying, okay, but this is still October. So we have to stay calm. Don't talk about Scudetto, because someone is already talking about Scudetto. It's still early, right, Alasdair? The encouraging sign, but come on. We can talk about it in April, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we're not going to get carried away at this stage of the season. We know better by this stage, I think. But no, I think the defensive side of it is really impressive, because I think that is something that it feels like it's almost a cultural thing that's changed in this team, where I spoke about this after the Fiorentina game, the fact that they were 4-0 up and they were still celebrating blocks at the end of the game to be able to keep a clean sheet. And I think just that it has been a cultural shift in this side, is the pride they're taking. They're still good at the attractive stuff, the technical stuff, the passing, the goals. They're still good at that, but they've proven now that you can actually balance that with defending, and that defending is something that as a team collectively you can really take pride in and that you can enjoy. And that seems to be what they're doing. You mentioned in Zaccagni's sprinting back to make a challenge. You saw that all the time in Bergamo, where they were defending pretty deep at times, but they were all getting back into position so quickly and forming such a difficult kind of route for Atalanta to try and play their way through. And yeah, I think we've not seen that kind of, collective resilience. I don't think we ever really saw that under Inzaghi, to be honest. Rarely, but it's just I think it's a kind of cultural change, like I say, and so for me that's the most encouraging thing when I think about the season as a whole, because I think it'll take something serious for that to change, because it's part of their DNA now. So yeah, I'm not saying they're going to keep this clean sheet run. It has to end eventually. We don't need to get too upset when it does, but I just think that's become a real part of this team's identity, and they're unlikely to lose it.
One thing very important is, Alasdair, if we go back to the Inzaghi era, playing without Ciro Immobile and Luis Alberto would have been a nightmare, right? We would have thought we have no chance. Playing against Atalanta without Ciro and Luis Alberto, we have no chance. Instead, we played great football and we dominated and we won. This is a little bit the difference between Simone Inzaghi and Maurizio Sarri, right? Lazio have started to play as a team. Obviously, Milinkovic Savic, it's a game difference maker. But we played as a team and we are able to win even without key players. Luis Alberto didn't come in yesterday. Sarri told us he was struggling all week long. Obviously, Lazio didn't tell nothing about that. So maybe Patrick is not playing for the same reason. But how impressive it is to win against Atalanta without Ciro and Luis Alberto.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Alberto obviously was around, but he's got an injury problem by the sounds of it. So another kind of mystery injury.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't sound too serious. I can't remember exactly what it was. Something he's taken a knock to his side or something like that. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I mean, it's again the quality of depth in this team coming through. And after we talked about Toma Basic last week, I was pretty critical of him, really. But I did think he actually made a pretty good impact coming off the bench yesterday. Full of energy, got around the pitch, made a couple of nice breaks upfield. So yeah, good point to prove from him as well. But you're right. I think that the star players, this used to be a team where there was quite a big gulf between the top players and the bottom players in the starting 11. Whereas now, I think the star players do contribute and make key contributions, but the whole ecosystem isn't entirely reliant on Milinkovic having the best day of his life or Immobile scoring one or two goals. So that's really encouraging.
Yeah, and you mentioned Basic. I thought he came in and played really, really well, which was encouraging, seeing how he struggled in the past. So that's really good. And we saw even Cancellieri coming in, Alasdair, and he played central forward when he came in, and Felipe Anderson moved to the side. He didn't have a shot on target, but did we see improvement? Cancellieri playing there?
I don't think we really saw enough of him to make a judgment, to be honest, because it felt a little bit like the game was already won by that point. He did seem really eager to make it, in my opinion. Like he seemed quite. There's a bit of nervous energy about him where he wanted to get involved as soon as possible. And obviously, I think it was quite interesting that he came on to go through the middle and Anderson then moved out to the right. So I do wonder if we will see him on Thursday against Midtjylland, or at least some point in the next week or so, because I don't know, can we rely on Anderson? He played really well there, but can we rely on him to be doing what Ciro did and be playing every single game there, starting every single game there? I'm not sure. So it does seem at least that Cancellieri is going to be the second cab off the rank, if you like, in that role.
Yeah, honestly, the game of Thursday against Midtjylland is so important that I cannot imagine Cancellieri starting. I can see him starting on Sunday against Salernitana. That's a match where he will have his chances, I think. But Midtjylland is a key match, Alasdair. Let's not forget it. We have to win. There's no other result for Lazio. We have to win. And so I think that Sarri will try and play the best team available. And that means Pedro, Felipe Anderson, and Zaccagni. So that's my opinion. But we are talking about Lazio playing so good, Alasdair. But we never won 3 matches in a row so far. So, yeah, we're playing good, but not that good in Europe League, right? We won 1 match, lost another one, and drew the other 2. It's time to step up even in Europe League because we need to win. And to be honest with you, since the first match against Midtjylland, they started to play really well, even in the league. I mean, they were 8th, and now they won 3 of the last 5 matches in the Danish league. So they have confidence, or better, we gave them confidence. So it's not going to be an easy match.
Yeah, but it can't go worse than last time, can it?
You never know. You never know.
I mean, the more this amazing defensive run goes on, the more mind-boggling that evening in Denmark becomes, really.
But again,
I mean, I do hope that the team sees it as an opportunity for revenge, because let's be honest, that was an embarrassing night. It was a humiliating European result, one of the worst the club's ever had. and so they need to prove a point here. They do, and like you say, it's important for the group anyway, because everyone has the same amount of points. But we don't want to be left in a situation where needing to go to Rotterdam and beat Feyenoord, because that will not be easy. And yeah, like I say, I think they've got a point to prove against this Danish team that, where Lazio, come on, let's respond to that, because that really wasn't a pleasant night for anyone.
No, it was more a nightmare than a pleasant night. And we have to remember that after Feyenoord, there is a derby. So 3 days later, there's Roma Lazio. So I don't know if the players would be focused enough to the Feyenoord match. So that's important. And we are at the moment, we are third, so we need to win. We need to score all the goals. And it's funny, Alasdair, because 6 consecutive clean sheet in Serie A, but in Europe League, our defense is struggling. 9 goals conceded, only 7 scored. That's not great, right? And it's hard to understand why this massive difference.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that we would probably rather have it this way, be edging it in the Europa League group stages than having dropped points in Serie A. It's less damaging. I mean, I think, yeah, fine, we would prefer to be in a more comfortable position in this group, probably expect to be in a more comfortable position in this group. But it's been really encouraging that they've managed to finally turn around that run of terrible league form after European nights. That was always a big issue, and that is something that they've sorted out this season, which has been great. But at the same time, we do want to be getting through to that knockout stage, and ideally getting through as group winners, because because it avoids an extra 2 games. So that probably means winning both of these matches. And there's no reason why that shouldn't happen. There really isn't. I think that the form Lazio and the confidence they've got, they just need to ensure they're going into these games with the same attitude and mentality that they're seemingly approaching the Serie A matches. And if they do manage that, then I don't see why they can't finish on a high. And best of both worlds in that case, if they manage to somehow finish with 2 wins here and win this group while having maintained good league form at the same time, it's really giving you everything you wanted. And let's not forget as well that the World Cup's coming up. That's going to be a momentum killer for everyone, but Lazio are really going to be pretty unaffected by this compared to a lot of the other teams around them. And I wrote a piece about Napoli this morning talking about this being a bonus for them, but Lazio are the only team that have fewer players going to the World Cup than Napoli. Obviously, the squads aren't official yet, but it's likely Lazio will only have Milinkovic and Vecino really at the World Cup. So, whereas Juve, Milan, these teams might have double figures, 10, 11 players going. So that's something as well.
Alasdair, were you surprised to see pretty much the same team that played against Udinese and struggled against Udinese starting against Atalanta? Because, obviously Ciro couldn't start, but apart from Ciro, that was the same. The other 10 were the same that Sarri picked against Udinese.
Not really, because I think that the team almost picks itself at this point. I think the only other thing you would look at is Alberto being involved, but he's obviously not fully fit at the moment. Casale versus Patrick is one position of doubt, I suppose, and then I think still as things stand, Marcos Antonio isn't considered ready to really be putting up a big fight to Cataldi, rightly or wrongly. So although there is good depth to this squad, I don't think there's any huge selection surprises there. Were you surprised?
A little bit, I thought. Well, obviously I didn't know about Luis Alberto injury, but Casale was a little bit of a surprise there. So yeah, maybe that's the thing. We have to talk about one thing very important, Alasdair. Well, 2 things. very important. The first one is Milinkovic Savic yellow card. There's a derby coming on. He's one yellow card away from suspension, which is concerning, right?
Yeah. I mean, he just needs to get through this Salernitana game without being booked. I mean, it was a pretty stupid booking as well, the one he got against Atalanta. I mean, it did make me laugh. I did find it quite funny because it was. I do have a soft spot for one of those really cynical bookings where he's not interested in making a tackle at all and he's just kind of knocked the guy over. But yeah, that would be a bit of a disaster losing him for the derby. So I think he needs to be really, really careful, Salernitana. I don't know. Do you think there's any chance Sarri will actually be ultra cautious and rest him or rotate him? I mean, it's something Inzaghi probably would have done, but I don't feel like Sarri has that kind of attitude.
No. Well, it depends. It depends how he play against on Thursday. If he show a little bit of tiredness, then maybe yes. The funny thing, Alasdair, he's got 2 yellow cards in the last 2 matches against Udinese Atalanta, which, he's not the type of player who is rude or used to get a lot of yellow cards. So that's a little bit surprising. Obviously, yesterday he made the right call. Let's be honest. If he doesn't stop the player, then maybe Atalanta find a shot on target and score. So he had to do it. So was a yellow card he had to take. But the other one, for example, against Udinese, he was protesting against the referee. It was something he could avoid. So that's where the issue are. He's protesting a lot, even though he's the captain. He's getting a lot of silly yellow cards like that, which doesn't make me happy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess captaincy comes with extra responsibility, extra pressure, maybe. I mean, the thing is as well, the captain is the one who's doing most of the talking with the referee. So if that's an issue, then he does need to be careful, really careful. Because as easy as it sounds, get through 90 minutes without a yellow card. All it takes is one small thing, being slightly late for a challenge because you're tired, losing your cool for a second and saying something stupid. I mean, he just needs to be very careful because I know we've just talked about the fact that there's good depth to the squad and it managed to get a good win without Ciro, without Alberto. There's absolutely no way we can deny that we're a far better team with Milinkovic in there than not. So, yeah, we'll see. Fingers crossed.
Alasdair, I want to close it with this thing because Tare, as usual, spoke before the match, and obviously one of the questions was, is Lazio going to try to sign a Vittorio Immobile this winter? And he said, well, we didn't think about it. We're going to have a meeting at end of November, so maybe we're going to talk about that in this meeting. And Sarri, after the match, was asked about this meeting, and he said, well, Lazio usually is not very good in winter transfer market. I guess this meeting could last 5 minutes. Not encouraging signs. Not encouraging at all.
I mean, it is something I love. It is one of the Sarri traits that I really love. Is he just says it how he sees it, doesn't he? He's not very diplomatic with a lot of his answers. So yeah, but I mean, he's being honest, isn't he? He's just being honest. He knows how it is. He knows what Lazio are like in the winter. And I don't think him saying that is going to come as a big surprise. I mean, we would love it if they signed Vittorio Immobile. We've been asking for that to happen for, however many years we've been doing this podcast for now. But yeah, I still find it's quite unlikely to happen.
We have to say something, Alasdair. There are not going to be a lot of champions or great players available in January, right? Usually you find on the market players that are playing, and so you have to wonder why he's not playing. Probably he's not good enough. And if you want to sign good players, you overspend in January. So that's why it's going to be very difficult. And we're probably going to end with another Jovan Cabral, right? Loan with the buyout option, and he won't play a single minute. And that's how it will go, like it always happens, right?
Well, I think the only, potentially potential opportunity is kind of, there's a lot more players obviously nowadays running their contracts right down to the end. And I guess looking at the market of players who are in the last 6 months of their deals, if Lazio have decided we need to get someone in this winter to help the second half of this season, and we're not going to wait to try and get this guy on a free transfer, there is an opportunity there, obviously, that the selling club is more desperate because they know it's their last chance to make any money whatsoever. The player is clearly already ready to leave if they're not signing a contract with the club they're at, and it means that Lazio can spend a lot less than they would do. So I don't have any ideas in mind, particularly when I'm saying that. It's just that I feel like that's the only kind of transfer situation that could arise where everyone could be a winner. But I don't know. I'm still not optimistic.
No, it's difficult. I mean, the history repeats itself, so it's going to be hard to see Lazio signing a great striker in winter. So I don't know. I'm really happy about the performance, but against Atalanta is going to be a completely different match. And we saw Roma playing yesterday against Napoli. I think you need a number 9 against these teams. And Sarri said it Saturday, right? He hopes that Ciro will recover before the break. So maybe against Juventus, we don't know. I'm not so optimistic, to be honest, Alasdair. But, it would be good to have Ciro back, at least on the bench.
Yeah. Although, I don't want to take any risks with that at all. Because, I mean, at least if he's not going to be back in time, then fine, and then he can do all his rehab in the World Cup period as well. So everyone's ready to go again. And this is the benefit of Lazio having Italianized the squad so much in the last year or so, is that with Italy not being at the World Cup, it means everyone's going to be fresh. You see, if they'd signed a lot of Scottish players as well, it would have been fantastic.
You stole my joke. That's not fair. The only difference is Italian players are a little bit better than the Scottish. A little bit.
I don't know. I don't know how much you've been watching Ross County recently, but we've got a hell of a squad. Bottom of the league.
Not only I didn't see them recently, I didn't see them ever. So...
Well, you're missing out on an entire parallel universe of pain there. So if you fancy more, then
well, I had enough of pain watching Lazio in the past, so I think I don't deserve more, honestly, with you. But if you want, I will try.
Yeah.
Alasdair, any other thing to add?
No, I don't think so. I think that's us for this week, and we'll hope for the best that we can keep this run going, get a good European result, and try again next time.
Yep. Just to end this, only Napoli in the last 5 matches made more points than Lazio in Serie A.
Yep.
Not bad, huh?
Yeah, that's a great run. Yeah, good stat. Well done. You're bringing the late stats.
Yeah. I mean, we did better than Milan, Atalanta, Roma, Inter, Juventus. That's at the beginning of the season. Who would have thought about that? Incredible. Let's hope it continues, right?
Yeah, it has to all be for something. So let's hope we can at least get to the World Cup break in a similar situation. That would be fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you again, Alasdair, for joining me. I leave you to all your busy thing. You had a busy day, it looks like. And guys, remember to listen and rate our podcast, please. It's really important, especially on Spotify and iTunes, if you rate our podcast. And if you want to support us, patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. Membership starts at $2 a month. And we're going to be back Monday to review Lazio Midtjylland and Lazio Salernitana. Take care.